This was the longest serving alderman in Chicago history, a very powerful local and state politician. Maybe we can send a message here, but I just don't know if the message is going to be received.
Tomorrow is decision day for one of the most powerful politicians to ever walk the corridors of City Hall. A federal court judge will decide the sentence for former Alderman Ed Burke following his conviction on 13 charges of political corruption last December.
And even though the judge has had weeks to decide on Burke's sentence, there are still several factors at play. In tonight's special report, Dane Placco breaks them down.
First up are the literally hundreds of letters of support Burke's defense team gave federal judge Virginia Kendall earlier this month. Those letters written by many high-profile political and community leaders, including Paul Vallis, former Chicago Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy, and former U.S. Attorney Dan Webb. 38th Ward Alderman Nicholas Spizzato wrote that Burke has, quote, helped countless people and organizations along the way, and that he is one of them.
So the letters will influence the judge to grant a lesser sentence for Alderman Burke than if he granted what the prosecution has asked for.
But will those letters work? Can they erase the impact of the shocking FBI wiretaps played at the trial? Many of those secretly recorded conversations were between Burke and another former alderman, Danny Solis.
While you're at it, recommend the good firm of Crafter and Burke to do the tax work.
All right, I certainly will.
And we can certainly talk about a marketing arrangement for you.
200 letters of support is impressive, but they haven't helped other convicted politicians.
In the past, when people like Governor Blagojevich or other powerful figures like Dan Rostenkowski had various similar pleas for reduced sentences, those weren't granted.
Those letters aren't the only factor that could have an impact on Burke's sentencing.
There is a Supreme Court decision that is pending which would redefine the terms of corruption. It's a case out of Indiana.
That upcoming decision, expected any day now, is why Burke's original sentencing date was pushed back.
It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. Judge Kendall is a very no-nonsense judge.
Former Chicago FBI agent Ross Rice has had a front row seat to many of Chicago's biggest political corruption cases. Of the 13 charges Burke was convicted on, Rice says the most serious is racketeering.
So in theory, she could sentence him to 20 years for each count and run them consecutively, which would be a life sentence. That's not going to happen.
Rice believes that won't happen because of Burke's age, 80, and his health. As for the High Court's upcoming decision on the corruption statute,
the best case scenario for the alderman, that would remove 2 counts from his conviction, but he still has a boatload of others, and they all carry that potential 20-year sentence.
Simpson believes Burke will likely see time behind bars because he was convicted on all but one of the federal charges filed against him, and says judges usually send public officials convicted of corruption to prison.
Yes, I think he will get prison time. I don't think he will get the prison time that, say, Governor Blagojevich got. It was quite clear that Blagojevich had no remorse. He would not admit that any crime had been committed.
Simpson also believes Judge Kendall will sentence Burke to less than the 10 years prosecutors are asking for. And while Burke may show remorse for his crimes and have hundreds of letters of support, in the end, it all comes down to this.
The judge will certainly consider all the letters, but in the end, the judge will be most bound by the jury's conviction.
Of course, Ed Burke was one of the most powerful aldermen in city council history, serving for more than 50 years, many as head of the finance committee, and always dressed immaculately. But the experts we talked to say there's a pretty good chance that Burke's going to be trading in those 3-piece suits for prison garb. At the Dirksen Federal Building, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.